As has already been alluded to today, the success of these graduates today would not have been possible without the support of family and friends. So I'd like to recognize, if you are a family member or friend of a graduate today, would you please stand? Thank you. And also, an event like this never occurs without a lot of behind-the-scenes work. And I would like to particularly recognize Ms. Kim Orlowski over to the side, who really was the one who coordinated and put together our program. Please. And Ms. Orlowski was assisted by a number of our staff and student volunteers who've been working for weeks to prepare for this. And you see many of them around the side. If you are a staff member or a student volunteer, would you stand or remain standing or wave your hand? Thank you. Thanks. In 1887, the North Carolina General Assembly passed an act authorizing the establishment of the North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts. This year, we have begun the celebration of the 125th anniversary of that college, now known as North Carolina State University. In keeping with this celebration, I thought I would tell you about a couple of interesting things in the history of the ECE department. The first course in electrical engineering was taught in 1893, and the first degrees having electrical engineering in their names were awarded in 1901. And that year, 3 Bachelor of Engineering and Electrical Engineering degrees were awarded, and 1 degree of electrical engineer. I am particularly intrigued by the electrical engineer degree, not only because it's an unusual degree, but because it was awarded to a fellow named Numa Reed Stancil. No doubt a long-lost relative of mine, although he spelled his name differently. This was apparently a postgraduate degree, since Numa received his bachelor's degree in 1898. In reading about the history of our department, I ran across the following interesting newspaper article about the first head of the ECE department, William H. Brown. On the front page of the January 9th, 1930 edition of the New York Herald Tribune appeared the following story. Professor off to pray for class rated at 12.5%. Raleigh, North Carolina, January 8, United Press. Professor William H. Brown, Jr. passed today in humiliation and prayer, hoping it would bring up the scholastic average of his engineering class. The North Carolina State College students who make up Professor Brown's class in electrical engineering averaged 12.5% on an examination. When they appeared for class today, they found this note on the door. The papers from this class are the poorest I ever got in 20 years of teaching. It would be wise not to bother me for the rest of the week, which I must pass in humiliation and prayer. William H. Brown. All I can say is this must have been a slow news day for the New York Herald Tribune. I should add that Professor Brown later said that he would stack his 12.5% students up against any other college's 87.5% students. Of course, we've come a long way since these early days, and Professor Snyder, I'm willing to bet that not a single person graduating today has taken a test in which the class average was 12.5, although I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. Throughout the last century, NC State has continuously prepared outstanding engineers to contribute to the state, the country, and the world. I hope you feel a kinship with these former graduates. In a real sense, you, along with Numa Reed Stancil, Professor Snyder, and thousands of others, including, I'm afraid, the students in Professor Brown's class, are brothers and sisters. In fact, although this graduation for many of you marks a departure from NC State, it is really just the beginning of a lifelong relationship. It is very important for us to keep in touch, because when you are successful, we look good. And when we move to the next level, the value of your degree increases. This symbiotic relationship is important to us both. I think Senator Orrin Hatch summed it up nicely. There is a good reason they call these ceremonies commencement exercises. Graduation is not the end, it's the beginning. And with regard to keeping in touch, I can also attest to the fact that there are a few things that professors enjoy more than hearing from former students. And now the words you've all been waiting for. That concludes our ceremony. Let's hear it one last time for the class of 2012.